Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. Alright. Order. The employment advantage. Climate change. Solvency. Counterplan. Critique. Elections. Federalism.
I'll give it to you one more time. The unemployment advantage, the climate change advantage, solvency, states, cap, elections, FISM.
Everyone good?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Employment, group 1, and C number 1 through 2, that's the impact to be global economic decline ensures multiple scenarios for extinction, all forms of conflict are inevitable and ripe for escalation. That's our Burroughs inheritance evidence couple of warning. The Great Depression should be a great warning. Economic decline hurts fledgling democracies and fragments. Multilateral institutions makes terrorism inevitable. Creates the recruitment environment necessary for disenfranchised followers. Forces in economically induced drawdown from the Middle East, allowing Iran to proliferate, focus on protections and causes maritime conflicts and modernization. All of their impact evidence is old. Prefer new impact evidence from 2009 on this question 1 and C. Number 3 through 4, group it. That's the appreciation to be. Systemic unemployment in the U.S. makes trade wars inevitable. That's our Flintoff evidence. With low unemployment comes low demand for Chinese exports. Consumers simply don't have the pocket change necessary to buy Chinese goods. China will be forced to devalue their currency even further to compensate for low demand in the U.S. That sparks a chain of protectionist sentiment in China and the United States. China and the U.S. are the world's 2 largest economies. If they stop trading with each other, it has a ripple effect on the global economy. All of their evidence is from 2011, so our evidence is from June 8. It takes this evaluation into context and talks about how China is devaluing their currency now because they need to make their exports cheap to compensate for low demand in the United States. Now, once number 5 is that trade wars don't happen. Their evidence is just lip service from politicians. It's not saying trade wars won't happen. That this was answered above. Now go to the warming debate. 1 and C number 1, they say we don't solve because of China crossed by our whole evidence. 1, if the U.S. leads, other countries will follow. U.S. is lagging in its climate policies. The United States is a hegemon in the international arena. If other countries see the U.S. happen, they'll be forced to lead. 2nd, China understands how dangerous warming is. Monsoons are killing its agriculture production now, so it gives it an incentive to switch in the future. 1 number 2, they see high-speed rail causes diesel. 1, no, diesel crossed by our Pearl 11, high-speed rail is used for alternative energy. That's our normal means. 2, even if high-speed rail uses diesel, it still removes massive amounts of CO2 from the air. 1, and C number 3, they see high-speed rail trades off with other alternative energies. There are no other alternative energies. You don't have any uniqueness for your lantern. You need a uniqueness too. When this lantern debate, high-speed rail is the only alternative solution piece to remove our oil addiction and transportation sector that's addicted to oil. 1, number 4, they say that warming is inevitable. This evidence does not say warming is inevitable. It just says that melting is increasing at a rapid rate. If we stabilize emissions, now we can solve for climate change. Our experience evidence indicates that climate change threatens the foundation of human existence because of positive feedback loops. Now go to solvency. 1 and C number 1, they see high-speed rail trades off with trade. 1, we don't link, we do not use the existing infrastructure. New sustained federal spending will lead to new infrastructure which avoids this trade-off. 2nd, they don't have any impact to this trend. 1 number 2, they say high-speed rail funding fails, doesn't assume the magnitude of the plan. Long-term capital investment laws. 1 C number 3, they see no ridership, focusing on key geographic locations is enough to solve for the negative implications. Also, eligibility standards allow us to adapt to consumer needs. 1 C number 4, they say costs are too much cost will decrease over time because of the revenue gain from high-speed rail. Also, they're seeing our agglomeration economic analysis, which talks about how we increase massive number of jobs because we facilitate trade within cities. Now go to the counterpoint. First 50 seats to get data vote for fairness in education. A point to choice topic education roots entire focus of the resolution. B subpoint unpredictability never happened before. No competing literature and states don't make identical decisions. C subpoint big rough decision making model. No overarching entity can fiat state action destroys questions of opportunity cost. 2. Permutation to both the capital links of politics, existing infrastructure legislation means state action will be tied to the federal government suite. 9. Federal financing will fund high-speed rail. The structure of existing legislation suggests likely outcome period area outlined a high-speed rail agenda and plan at the state will be funded through federal investment choice. decentralized program is a decision with several outcomes. Federal funds will support federally regulated independent regional high school system, state, local. Private funds will bear the bulk of operating costs. 3, massive solvency deficits. Case in point, funding only federal funding is sufficient. Case in point, national standards, eligibility standards are set by the federal government are key. That's a Arlington and Kirk evidence. 4, federal funding is key to bear the brunt of capital cost speed. And 9, availability of dedicated capital funding will determine the profits of American high school capital. Costs need to be borne at the federal level. Coordination across state governments. The federal role will be important in facilitating coordination, standardizing, and debating, and labor practice regulation. If no dedicated federal funding source and federal funding levels will not be sustained on dedicated federal funding source. Political ones in the long term on certain given sustained high federal funding on dedicated source will result in very ad hoc system. 5, turn northeast quarter asset point funding constraints in the northeast quarter have almost collapsed. Its infrastructure hardware and 11 decades of underinvestment. Right should be northeast should reach record levels. And you see one of the busiest, most complex road quarters in the world. The nation of right should underinvestment like money, infrastructure cost stress, and major trouble with capacity constraints are a key to major restrictions. Piece of point turn federal funding is key. Amtrak is owned by the federal government and controls the northeast quarter. P3s can't provide capital investment. They only account for operating cost speed. And 9, from national high school programs to be sustainable long term required dedicated federal funding source. While the effect this will put on state and PG operation by providing function capital investment only, policies will shape Amtrak. Northeast quarter should be classified high school. Amtrak owns to right away in the northeast quarter. Amtrak shares are owned by the federal government, underscoring the importance of sustained federal funding without federal involvement. High school proposed to Illinois, past California, for Ohio, Texas, attempted best high school based on state and private financing. Now, critique. First is framework or interpretations that balance and competitive policy options, test no ways to predictability, no ways to test philosophical assumptions of the plan. B, point topic education prevents negative from mooning a resolution discussion. C, point rest across the only way to justify plan action, way of permanent impacts, and laying plans more move away from the SADS and move towards capitalist policies. No reason to 8, high school building promotes capitalism and lack of copy playing doomsday alternative failure. This is Hummel and 7 makes little sense to say we're rejecting capitalism without trying to explain concretions. We want to set pontificating on the evils of capitalism and counterproductive people. I've been recently skeptical and several alternative capitalists reasonable people want to know our struggle different from the last one, how we work and cognitive want to provide answers to why our procedural breakdown idea hijacking religion movement capable of protecting environment in time has come past reducing flux of linguists and churn moving away from growth risk to totalitarianism and violence and war. Our society is ingrained in academic policy and the entirety of the act is also dissent to the alternative. Now go to elections. First case outweighs net of class-based proliferation level. 2, CPD doesn't stop roll of David. 9, CPD is a product of Cold War discussion. CPD is not binding any country until 180 days after 44 countries named and have ratified and enforced will be impeded by disagreements about compliance, also impeded by the fact that itself not being designed to evade attack components starting the U.S. ratification signal, but a signal of what? U.S. target stop testing on expulsion of nuclear. It was dismantled more than 30,000 nuclear weapons, reduced to strategic nuclear weapons, stuck on 40% less than strategic arms reduction treatment supports all existing non-proliferation regimes. And no uniqueness election prediction is historically no better than dumb luck in predicting the winner. Rothschild and 12 campaigns and candidates involved in elections are dynamic events with more variables than distilled an equation. And note about models, there are a lot of them from complex equations generated by nerdy academics like Colin, Quinn. A funny coincidence like the Redskin rule, which holds that the incumbent party keeps the White House and Washington football team won its last home game and 9 Lincoln. Obama's recent poll ratings have our statistical fluke. Recent manufacturing report spells bad news regarding Obama's swing state silver. And 12, there's been relatively little change in Mr. Obama's approval ratings, which could suggest a change in national polls. It's a statistical fluke. National polls be overestimating summer sales remains a secondary issue compared with the economy and the academic front. The report Mr. Obama manufacturing report showing a sharp decrease in orders. New goods and report could continue to slow down manufacturing activities in the breadth of the economy, expression in foreign states in the Midwest, and high-speed growth sales for manufacturing. This is Wellington and Kiersten. Construction, high-speed growth points, and golden opportunity to build manufacturing sector by establishing a last market for real, helping firms acquire technology and expertise by helping workers develop the skills to help the new industry stop it. At industry now go to federalism. First, 98 Arizona immigration law, Robinson, and 2 even more gratifying is, of course, reports obvious principle federal government has a responsibility for setting immigration policy. Not this each year's law, South Making secret from that poor. Immigration groups of Obama across the board, states which is Arizona is trying to separate federal program. This is huge implication for other states. They're also trying to decide their own immigration policies, and not only no recent high-speed rail network is intrinsic to states' rights. Also, sharing cooperation is key to solve for federalism, Wellington and Current, and to develop a real simple competition based by states. The federal government will be required to make network possible. The federal government will need to hold receivers accountable. Tie actions regarding national tri-states will have responsibility for doubling and implementing the plan in. Their impact evidence is older than I am. It's from 1995. It should be rejected on evidence. portion of the advantage.
The unemployment, like, how in the world does high-speed rail
If there's systemic,
trigger trade war caused by
if there's systemic unemployment in the U.S., consumers have less pocket change, which means they're buying less goods, which means we import less from China, which causes trade wars because we are a major importer of Chinese goods, which causes a hauling out of the manufacturing sector. If we're not importing goods from China, China has no outlet for economic growth. Correct.
Really?
Yeah, our evidence is really good concerning the
Read me one line, like something that isn't up here and then down here.
What? I need to get the one saved.
I feel like what you're trying to convolute with this advantage, if you can call it that, is that
Trade disputes have become increasingly intense. Conflicts will inevitably have an impact on the recovery of the global economy.
Yeah, that's an impact card talking about how trade wars. I want something that says that
It's also a unique piece of brink evidence about how protectionist sentiment is currently growing in both countries because of our trade policies.
Okay, that's wonderful. So, on the politics debate, your only uniqueness answer, correct me if I'm wrong, is the Rothschild evidence that says those are too close to prove, we can't even know. I don't understand.
No, I didn't read that evidence. We read the conclusion of your 1 and 2 uniqueness evidence, which says that national polls are flawed because they use state-by-state basis. And if you look at the recent manufacturing report, it portends a slowdown in Obama's poll ratings because it's a poor state of the economy. What's up?
That's a great argument.
It's uniqueness for our winter.
The lintern that says HSR leads to manufacturing and then nowhere else in the card discusses public perception whatsoever?
No, it's talking about how the manufacturing sector is uniquely key for swing states like Ohio, which depend on the manufacturing sector. The evidence I read in the 2AC talks about how high-speed rail is a golden opportunity for the Midwest manufacturing sector because it can produce the goods needed to produce efficient high-speed rail.
But nowhere in this card does it come close to saying that the manufacturing sector is a silver bullet for Obama's vote.
That's the conclusion of our silver evidence. It says that swing states are key.
Okay, so
We still
you make the claim that it's key to manufacturing and then... Okay. Need to try